Technology. This is Robert Gabriel. I'm the President and CEO of MicroWise Technology, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. During the seminar, I'm going to have a special guest, Shelly from Bill Flash. Bill Flash is a very close partner of MicroWise and Lytec, and she will help me with the presentation where we are showing you the statement and patient payment through Lytec and a new version. So let's get started here. This is just a disclaimer. Anything you learn today seminar, you need to double check it. MicroWise cannot be held responsible for any damage or financial hardship to your practice. The agenda today is we're going to go through ICD-10, how to prep step by step. Also going to go through the what's new in Lytec 2015 and the patient intake form and how to make office forms paperless. We're going to do how to send statements more often without having to duplicate the same statement to the same patient, and how to accept credit card processing within Lytec and patient to make payment online using credit cards. We're going to have a section for Q&A, so you can ask any question. So we're going to have a section at the end for Q&A, but that doesn't mean that you cannot interrupt me during the meeting and ask questions. I like live questions. I like questions where I'm presenting, so I think it's the most effective way. So let's do it that way. Plus, we will have an open session at the end for Q&A. And at the end, Q&A doesn't have to be related to the topic. So as long as it's related to the industry or related to Lytec, doesn't matter what version of Lytec. If we have time at the end and you want to ask questions, so please feel free. So we all know by now that the ICD-9, how they look, it was 3-digit number followed by a decimal and a 1 or 2 digits. In ICD-10, when you look at ICD-10, you will notice that it starts with a character and followed by 2 numbers, a decimal with 3 numbers, and an optional extension. So at the bottom here, that's the ICD-10, and the top here is the ICD-9. Now, don't shoot the messenger. You know, ICD-10 is going to bring us pain, but we will we will go through it, but it's actually it is for the future. We need to take a couple steps back to go 5 steps forward. So ICD-10 has a lot of benefits, and a lot of the benefit is going to help the outcome and help diagnose patient better and help to comply with the rest of the world. Europe has been using ICD-10 for 11 years, and the whole world is getting closer and closer together. So patient travel now from one country to another, and the United States wants to comply with the rest of the world. Plus, they want, of course, to control and do better studies with diagnosis than we have today, and what's effective, what's not effective. Is it going to be hard? Yes. We will overcome it and get the best out of it. So this is my checklist. I'm going to go through this fast, but I'm going to go through each step in a little bit more detail. Internal training, I'm going to talk about who needs to get trained in the practice and the method of getting training. Software upgrade, if you have Lytec 2014 or Lytec 2015, you are ready for ICD-10. However, you will need to do a couple things. One of the things is make sure you're sending claim through Revenue Manager. If you're sending a claim, if you don't know what Revenue Manager is, most likely you don't have it. So Revenue Manager is the format that you're able to send an NC 5010. That format has been in regulation for the past 4 years, but a lot of people they're sending a print image to the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse is converting that print image into NC format for you and send it on your behalf. But to really be comply with the NC 5010 and not to experience any problem, you need to upgrade to the Revenue Manager, and you will see a new interface sending claim and it will see it says revenue manager there. If you don't, then you probably don't have. If you're not on Lytec 2014 or Lytec 2015, most likely you will need some hardware upgrade. So depending if you're a network version or single user, you might need a new computer or a new operating system or a new RAM or a server. So there will be, if you're not on 2014 or 15, most likely you will need, because Lytec 2014 or 15 do not work on XP. So if your old computer had XP, then we will need to upgrade you, and you will need certain CPU and certain memory. I do have a white paper that I'm going to send out today to all of you, unless you opt out from our emails. The white paper will have more details and resources that you can follow, and with the specs and things like that. Now let's talk about the Super Bell. So if you have a Super Bell in your office today that is paper, let's think about this. Does that Super Bell have any ICD-9 on it? I see a mix of practice that some have it, some don't have it. It of course depends on the specialty. So if you do have an ICD-9, you might think about this: what am I going to do with the ICD-10? If you have a half a page of ICD-9 today on your Super Bell, most likely, okay, here's the alarm starting. I apologize for this. If you have a half a page of ICD-9, to replace that with ICD-10, depending on your specialty, it might be 5 pages of ICD-10. So it might be not feasible to convert your paper Super Bell to another new Super Bell on paper. I'm going to give you other options, and we're going to discuss it, and I would like to have the open forum where you ask me questions and let's think about it together. That's what a user group is for. Okay, I'm not sure if you're hearing the alarm and it's bothering you, but I will continue talking. Unfortunately, I'm recording this, so whoever is listening to this is going to be, troubled by that alarm. I know it's kind of uncomfortable. So now there will be other options. I'll discuss that in more detail as I'm going through the slides. And I'm going to share with you some ideas of lookup resources. One of the hardest things about ICD-10 is not really coming up with the code. It's really having the physician know how to code and knowing how to document using ICD-10. What I mean by that is because ICD-10 is very specific. So, for example, now we went from maybe, let's take diabetes. Diabetes went from a handful of codes to 50 different codes. So it makes a difference if the patient has what type of diabetes, and I'll show you that as I'm getting into Lytec. So documenting, because the ICD-10 is by very specific by laboratory and how often, how frequent, and how many encounters happen. Your documentation has to reflect on that type of coding. We're going to talk about testing, what is the best way to test, and we're going to check with what clearinghouse you have. Then we're going to of course, at the end, I'm going to say that banks don't give money when you need it the most. They only give you money when you don't need it. So if you have not done so, I would advise every practice to secure a line of credit. Hopefully, you will never use it, but let's have it available because everybody's expecting there will be a dip in cash flow, and nobody can afford that. So this is just a, if you have not done any investments yet on the ICD-10, that's what the average industry standard for small practice, they think it's going to be. I kind of rounded those numbers, so it comes out to like $40,000. So let's go through them. Education, everybody in the practice needs to be trained on ICD-10, and I'm talking about specific training, and I will recommend a few sources for the training. I'm going to recommend a few sources for the training. So the physician is the one at the hardest risk here. So you want, I will show you the best training that a physician can have if they have not done so. If you have not upgraded yet, you might need some IT investments, such as a new server or new computer, or both. Uh, their software upgrade, the average price. And if internally, you might need some professional help with process analysis, or maybe reprinting a super bill or designing a new super bill electronically. I'll share with you a few options on that. Uh, and the increase of documentation. The increase of documentation, you might need, if you're using an EMR and your template gives you an ICD-9, you might need to redesign your template to do an ICD-10. So that designing is going to require some investment or internal staff time. If you don't have an EMR, so you might want to, maybe it's a good time to get on an EMR now, because the EMR will make it easier for the physician to code and to document an ICD-10 by hand. Um, and so the $14,000 is an average between somebody that might have an EMR and somebody that don't have an EMR. The cash flow disruption is, it's about $10,000, or some people think it's about, a month to 3 month of interruption. So average total of $40,000 for small practice with one physician. Uh, So the financial risk, of course, if the physician doesn't get paid, nobody gets paid. Uh, can't meet the payroll, can't pay microWise for support. So we all at lost here. We want to make sure that the physician continue to get paid. Compliance. So the compliance is not just sending the codes. The compliance is with the documentation.